Does anyone ever answer Draupadi about if she can be gambled? Are we living in a multiverse? Do the gods still incarnate on Earth? What is the Kali Yuga? And when does it end? Are there immortal beings? And are they walking around? And what are they doing? Uh, can you convert to Hinduism? Do you have to do rituals? If you do, what's the process? Do you have to? Should you? Are we ISKCON? Um, how has this changed us up to this point? All of these questions and conversations and more tonight. Welcome, Path to Dharma Podcast.
What is your path to Dharma?
Welcome, Path to Dharma Podcast. Shannon here. I'm here with Shay. As you may know, we've been working our way through the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you're new, check out our other episodes. We've been reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, studying, learning. Really, it's our love for Krishna that has brought us here to this point. So first of all, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
But as we've been reading and learning over the past, 6, 8 months now? How long has it been since we've been reading now?
I think
Months
we
now.
got them. I think we got them in October.
Okay, so all of those things we've talked about already a little bit, but we thought tonight we would kind of pause. We're in the middle of Canto 3, Part 1, but I wanted to do a little bit of reflection, a little bit of integration. This is a good time for it, I think. This is a super auspicious day. And part of it is I want to be super grateful to the universe, to Krishna, for giving me this beautiful book, this beautiful knowledge, and I'm so grateful for it. And I think all of these questions that we're going to go through tonight, we would love to hear from you. These are things we've been talking about, and y'all have been putting things in the comments for us, which have been amazing. But we still have questions. How about it, Shay? We still have some questions.
And I feel like I'm just beginning to start to feel comfortable. Just like really dropping into like what this all means for me and the energy field of my own that's changed. Like I feel like I'm just starting to be comfortable,
Yeah,
you know? So
I hear
let's
you.
do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so you heard all my questions, and we're just going to start right at the top. Let's talk about Draupadi, because I've been bringing this up for days now, as you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, if you've been watching us, this is something I've been bringing up. And I spent a little time trying to look in the Mahabharata for a good English version of what does Draupadi actually ask. And I just can't really get a good one that I'm satisfied with. So, um, likely you'll know this story, but what I'm referring to is Yudhishthira gambling away himself, his brothers, his entire kingdom, and his wife. But
Mm-hmm.
as she is being grabbed and pulled into court, she asks the Kshatriyas, the sages, is this legal? And really nobody answers her. Now, we do have a couple people that do stand up and actually speak for her, interestingly, on the Kauravas side.
Mm-hmm.
But someone from the Kauravas side does go ahead and tries to disrobe Draupadi and continuously insults her. And she keeps asking, is this okay? Is this legal? And I feel like we didn't get an answer. And I know we're not reading the Mahabharata, but it keeps coming up over
It
and over. They
does.
keep bringing it up. They keep bringing it up. Which I just thought of another question, which I'm going to add to the end, which
Yes.
is, this whole what if you had 7 days to die thing. So we're going to circle back to that. So
Oh,
let's add that to the end. Maybe we'll
yes.
pick that up at the end. So don't let me forget. Don't let us forget to ask that. So I've been struggling a little bit to really understand what is the story telling me.
Right.
Because on some levels, as you all know, I've been kind of upset and feel like Draupadi is still waiting for some justice. And if I was her, I would never speak to Yudhishthira ever again as long as I lived. That was it. Um, but that's really not what I'm supposed to take from that. Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to feel a little bit of that injustice. I don't think that's the point of that story, but I slightly struggle to understand it, to be totally honest. And I feel like the answers that we get from the people watching us in our comments are just well, that's just Yudhishthira didn't do anything wrong, and that's just he had to answer.
Yeah, somebody said
He had to
something
go to the
along the
dice
lines
game.
of like
Mhm.
it's his dharma as he
Right.
couldn't say no
Right.
as
And as we know, Krishna knows about the entire deal that he's putting on here with everybody coming to Earth and incarnating and his whole line having to be wiped from the earth. And he knows that this is the thing that's going to start the war.
right.
So hence this is what like the bigger picture of why is this happening. So I find this so interesting. One of the things that I'm learning while reading this is there's so many layers upon layers upon layers of story
Oh
here.
my gosh, yeah.
And I do want to point out there's various opinions on the literal nature of the Hindu scriptures. Many people insisting, yes, this is literal, this is history, this is our history. Some others saying, well, maybe it's a little more allegorical. So
Right,
I find it super interesting that most people seem to consider this to be a historical story. Am
right.
I right? Is that what you're getting to?
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
I'm just sitting here pondering, thinking about this whole idea of this situation being what started the war and how it had to be something of this caliber, right?
yeah,
It had to
right.
be something that was so unjust
Yeah,
to kickstart something of this magnitude.
yeah, I think you're right because there had been incident after incident after incident. They
Mhm.
literally keep getting even like sent to random force for 12, 13, 14, like one Jupiter cycle, it seems like.
But you tried to disrobe Draupadi, and that's it.
Right. And like
We're going to war.
Beam is like, I will be back to like take care of all y'all when I get back.
Yeah.
And it's like that threat just dropped in the room, likely. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
that is basically what happens. So like not good for anybody. So I get it that that has to happen. Something has to happen to start everything, but I just slightly feel like the treatment of Draupadi is never really in my head. No one circles back and really answers her question because
Right.
apparently the answer is yes, but no one wants to actually speak that out.
Right.
So, yeah, okay, I get it.
But do we find an answer? Is there an answer somewhere?
Is there an
Like,
answer?
does somebody respond to Draupadi directly saying answering that? Or no, they just move on and now it's just a part of the story that's referred to again and again. It feels like this is something that has to be being talked about. You
I
would
know.
think,
You would
like,
think. Are y'all
you
sick of
would
me
think.
bringing this up? Because I keep bringing this up over and over. But it's like I want it resolved. I want to understand what I'm supposed to learn out of this thing.
Well, and you wanna know something of why you feel so deeply rooted to this? It's just because of your background and your history, and I feel
Yeah, it's
the same
true.
way, like, as an advocate, as somebody who is, like, trying to empower women and
Yeah.
people who have been traumatized and hurt, it's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, where's her answer? Are we just advocates? Are we just being advocates for her right now?"
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably so.
Somebody respond to her. She asked. She
Right.
spoke up. She could have been quiet,
She's the
you know?
queen. She was the queen, no less. Someone
Yeah.
answer her. Okay. We've maybe said enough about Draupadi for now, and I will
But please
try.
respond in the comments. If is there an answer? That's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
I want to know, does anyone ever answer that? What's the true answer to
Or
that?
where I'd love to hear some guru or some like spiritual masters like thoughts on it. I would
Yeah.
love to. Specifically a woman. So if
Yeah.
anybody has any
Same.
links or
Same.
please drop those below. I would love to hear somebody's commentary on this.
Yeah. Is this something that people question, or am I just the weirdo here about it? I
Right.
don't know. Okay, let's go to the next topic. Okay, next topic. Are we living in a multiverse?
Yes.
What do you think? It seems like the answer is yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's one simple. I feel like if there's one
Yeah,
thing that I've learned from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's that we are living in a multiverse. And I honestly cannot believe that this has been recorded for this long and more people aren't just referring to that to know that
right.
answer.
It's really amazing what we're reading in Canto 2, the cosmic manifestation. We read all about the manifestation of Vishnu and the different planetary systems and how the universe basically is created over and over again. And Yeah, it seems like we are living in a multiverse. It seems like what we're living is way more complex than we can possibly understand.
Mhm.
But I feel pretty actually stunned by what we're learning in the Srimad Bhagavatam about all of that and just
Yeah.
how everything has manifested. Again, it's like a layer, a hierarchy, like there's always another layer to it. There's always another dimension. There's always something bigger. And we talked before about this idea that we are just fractals of energy. We're just repeating over and over different cycles, different, it's like the Leela, the game, the pastimes.
Yeah.
That idea that that we are just playing out the pastimes of the gods. And maybe I'm not understanding that correctly. Is that
I
what, like,
like that
what's
interpretation though. Now that you say it like that, I kinda like that. That kinda rings true to my soul. When
mm,
you say it like that, that we're just acting out the pastimes of the gods.
well, what's the purpose of the multiverses is to keep incarnating over and over, to keep doing
To me,
it.
it's almost like a filter of karma or like a
Okay.
filter, you know? That's how it feels like. Like, where is your soul at? And there's like a big screen and
Okay.
you get shook out and you land wherever like wherever it is you need to go to fulfill some type of thing for your soul.
I like this conversation we had about the gods taking different roles,
Yes.
like Indra being a title, being a role, like
Right. Right.
the
Which
different.
again is just somebody's soul who was filtered through and they
Yeah.
landed in Indra.
But isn't it just Krishna? Because isn't that also
Yeah.
something we're learning? So the
Yeah.
multiverses, I mean, the one story about Krishna when he's little Krishna and he he summons, I don't even know the word, all the Brahmins to come teach the one Brahmin a lesson
I'm
from
not
this
familiar with
earth.
this.
Yes,
I'm
you
not
are. Yes, you are. It's the one where he basically takes the friends up. Indra comes down to earth and he's like, "Who's this Krishna?" And he like grabs his
Okay,
friends all
yes.
up into the sky,
Yes.
and Krishna multiplies
Multiplies
himself and
himself.
becomes,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And that's where we see all these different Brahmins, and he tells him, "You're just one of many." So the wonder I have is why all the multiverses are these just different ways to learn lessons for our souls, just different leelas, just different play times that we're doing over and over. And if you had eternity, which is really impossible to wrap your mind around, but
Yeah.
what else would you do?
Right.
Right? Like
Right.
it's kind of hard to really think
Like I
about.
could yeah, like I could go down as Shay for 90 years, 100 years.
Right.
Yeah, let's see what that's about. Or yeah, I'll go sit down there and be a tree for how long do trees even live for? They can live a long time. 200 years. That could be a 200-year-old tree.
Right. Is there this idea of reincarnation over and over and over and over? It's not that I hadn't heard of that before, reading these
But it's hitting
scriptures
a
and
different it's a hitting a
it,
different level now,
yes, it
for
is.
sure.
It's definitely hitting at a different level. There's all sorts of new agey stuff out there surrounding this past lives business.
Yeah.
And when we think of it more as a continuation of your energy, it does feel different. And
Yeah.
Krishna talks about that in the Gita about you just picking up your prior lifetimes, whether you like it or not. Like
Yeah.
you're going to go right into it. So, um, that thought of, wait, every single thing in my life actually has to do with some karma from so-called past lives, but it's really just like literally the wheel of time that we just keep
Yeah.
going on and on. And every person, every experience, especially every significant experience, is going to be traced back to some other thing. So,
And the wheel turns. And the
yes.
wheel turns.
And that's, I guess, what dharma is, what karma is. And
Yeah.
that should have really been a question in here. What is karma?
Right.
And again, the idea of that what you send out comes back to you seems pretty reasonable to me.
It
That
does.
that one's easy to get. That one's easy, it seems like. There are times I will say this, you'll see somebody who isn't the greatest person and they get away with things and they seem to be getting rewards from the universe. And we're like, well, what's up with that? That doesn't seem right. but we don't know their larger karma. We don't know.
No, we
We just
don't.
don't know. So,
Yeah.
um, it's super interesting to just be able to say, okay, well, maybe their karma is coming in the next lifetime, and I
Well,
have to be okay
everything
with that.
yeah, everything is cause and effect, and isn't that what
Right,
karma really is?
right,
Is cause and effect. Something happens and something happens and something happens, and you act on something and then something happens again.
right,
And
totally.
that's the wheel.
Okay,
So yeah, and when we think about the idea of the multiverse in relation to karma, yeah, at this like human level, it can be like, oh, what is this person's, just taking advantage, they're getting everything, whatever. This is 90 years, this is a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things.
not
Not
even a
even,
blink.
exactly.
Yeah. It's really hard to really picture, but
I keep coming back to that part where it's like you can't even grasp, you can't even understand
you
what this
can't.
means.
Even the
And
sages who've thought about it, even
yeah,
like even the ones that have time after time, lifetime after lifetime meditating on it, they still don't quite
yeah,
aren't able to grasp it until they're at that level, until we get back to a different dimension where we can understand it. Like in these human bodies, it limits us, but we're supposed to be limited. So I
yes,
guess there's kind of another answer of what's up with the multiverse. Well, we are slow and it's stubborn, and our egos are like a problem, and we have to learn everything the hard way as humans. So there you go.
yeah. And again, I say we chose this
We
based
did.
upon our past cause and effect,
True, true, true.
and I'm just hoping that in this lifetime I'm making some headway. And I just know I am actually just by being gifted the Srimad Bhagavatam gives
Yes.
me fucking hope for my soul.
Seriously. It's like I know I must have done good enough things to get to even know about Krishna and
Yeah,
have him telling me these amazing things and like showing
because
up.
something else that's been blowing my mind lately is just this whole idea that I went 25 years without even knowing what Krishna, like, not a word,
Right.
not even an idea of who
Nothing.
Krishna could be.
It's
If someone said
crazy.
Krishna, I would have had no idea. Nothing could. And so the fact that Krishna is
Yeah.
now playing such a pivotal role in my conscious life is
Amazing.
so cool. So
Mind
cool.
blowing. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so let's go to our next topic, which
Yeah.
is, do the gods still incarnate? And this is one I don't think I have an answer to really in my mind, because I feel like
Yeah.
I've gotten both yes and no. Like,
Yeah, I've heard people say, like, they're just not reincarnating in Kali Yuga.
but like, which our next question does kind of, we do have a question about what is Kali Yuga and stuff, but like, I guess my thought is like, well, wait a second. Who are we then?
Right,
Not we personally, like we're gods or whatever, but like all of us
right.
is who I'm referring to. Okay. If what we're reading in the Srimad is just these epic stories of the gods when they incarnate into these bodies, and they have these stories that they're teaching us how to live, basically how to die, right?
Yeah,
Um Okay, but what's going on here in our game, in these multiverses that we're in? So how come we don't have gods and goddesses incarnating, or do we? And they just don't know. Like, are the different sages incarnated down here? Because sometimes you'll even hear about different sages being the incarnation of a prior sage.
right,
Okay, so does that
right,
mean the sages can come down here? So, like, where's Vyasa?
right,
You know what I mean? Like, is Lakshmi down here, and she's
right.
just incarnated as someone, and she doesn't know? Is Arjun
Great
here?
question.
Like that's, I guess I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know the
yeah.
answer to these questions. I guess not. If he reached moksha, I guess we already know he didn't. But at the same time, it's these are
Well,
the
I
things
mean,
that
look
I'm
at
not
Krishna.
clear about.
Yeah,
This is
and
what I'm not clear about.
Krishna came back down. So I think reaching a state of liberation doesn't necessarily mean you can't reincarnate back on Earth if you're needed. I think that's a point too that I've heard is like maybe they are not reincarnated now until it's like abs remember that one part that was saying like the mountains have to fail, the river has to fail, the sun has to fail, the moon has to fail before gods will incarnate on earth to help bring back balance and equilibrium. And so
Okay.
maybe that's our answer. We're not at a point of, seems crazy because hello, we could use some help down here.
It
Come
seems
on down.
nuts. When you really think about like some of the criteria for Kali Yuga, we're deep in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, is that during the Kali Yuga, we're just on your own down here,
But it also
basically.
doesn't, but also this doesn't feel so bad. Like this time it
I
doesn't feel so
mean,
bad. To be in at least in my reality as a person who
yeah.
reincarnated back in America as a white woman, like my reality is pretty solid, I'll say, at the very least. I feel like Kali Yuga is playing out in different areas in the world very differently that I am just ignorant to just based on my location.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kind of too, that kind of goes right into our next question. What is the Kali Yuga? And this has been something that I feel like we've talked about. We've sort of had answered, the Kali Yuga being one of four
Ages?
ages, and this particular age being one of ignorance and darkness. I thought I had
Must.
read, yeah, I thought I had read that by the end of the Kali Yuga, like no one will even know about the Vedas. Like the scriptures will be gone from the earth. So I
Mhm.
say to myself, okay, well, we must be early enough that we have them still. Because
Right.
we do have them still. We're able to read them. But
That's
there's
a good point.
a lot of other things that seem pretty on point about just money being what people think is something to
Important.
admire. Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
greed. It's the greed.
yeah, yes.
Mhm.
The what we find important, just this idea of celebrity. Of course,
Yeah.
we live in America where celebrity is just, it's everything. And it's super interesting. We are seeing the fall of some of that slightly. Can I just wonder to myself, we've seen a little bit of things coming out
Mhm.
and people kind of turning away from that slightly. Power to the people, by the
Power to the
way.
people, baby.
This is definitely some Pluto and Aquarius business, but
Yeah.
I
We can
feel,
make the change. That's another question I have. What was the astrology in different in different yugas?
mm,
You
I'm
know, like what
right.
differentiates that? I'm sure a Vedic astrologer
Uh,
has like dove into that, you would think.
You'd think that's in the books. It's like I have read a little bit of it, but it's too much a little right now.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
trying to take it all in and
Yeah.
still learning Western astrology. So to get into all that, I just haven't done it yet, but likely there's some outer planetary movement involved.
Sure.
Of course, they knew about things, and that's what's so fascinating. I go back to the cosmic manifestation and them calling out in 5,000-year-old scriptures things that we're just finding out from science now. And that's
Yeah.
wild. Which, by the way, we know this was
Absolutely
written
insane.
down 5,000 years ago, but like the oral tradition had to exist. So, how old is the story we're reading?
Old.
Pretty old. Pretty old.
Yeah.
Um, so we're in Kali Yuga. We're basically not getting out of it probably in our lifetime because it doesn't seem we're gonna get to that point of Kalki showing up where everything is absolutely like gone to shit at that point, and like we're all just, it's definitely like a rich poor divide, and like we don't know anything. We're just ignorant down here.
Yeah.
I don't think we're quite there yet. On some levels, we definitely are.
Yeah. I say again, why are we here? Why did we choose Kali Yuga? So that we could experience Krishna in this way. And I could always come
Yeah.
back to that too, this idea that in the Kali Yuga it's so easy to call upon those energies, those higher energies, because all you have to do is put your mind there. All you have to do is say the name or think about it, and you get things happen really quickly in Kali Yuga. Whereas in other ages it was more drawn out. You had to do the horse sacrifice to get the
Okay.
attention.
Which this is actually one of my questions, a side question I've written down here in the Kali Yuga about the ceremonies. We've been reading about the different ways to reach the divine, let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And we know about bhakti. which I can just go with love. And I'm just going to go with love because that seems like the easiest way, right, to get
Right.
there. But do I have to do ceremonies? Do I have to do the certain mantras? That's what I
Right.
want to know. Because it seems like within Hinduism, which we've discovered is not a religion so much as it is a umbrella term for like a series of philosophies, almost, it seems
Mhm.
like.
Mhm.
Um,
Many
so,
paths.
yes, but many people have different ways they go about worshiping.
Yeah.
Different ways, a lot of things that seem really overwhelming. Like I was listening to this one astrologer and he was saying, if you have this planet in this nakshatra, here's what you do to mitigate. And he listed like a 14-step thing of all the things I had to do. I didn't even know what he was talking about, like on behalf of them. I was like, ay, 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 like say this whole mantra and then do that. I was like, okay, do I have to do all that or can I just go with bhakti? Like, what if I
Right.
never figure all that out and I don't say the mantra right and I don't chant right and I don't say the prayers right? I think I can just go with bhakti, and just go to Krishna at my death and I don't have to worry about that. Is that true or not true?
Okay, well, I've heard a story before about someone saying, like Ram or Krishna or something on their deathbed, like on accident, like not meaning, and then them going to that God. And so to me, what makes the most
Okay.
sense, right? And that's where it's like, can I just put my mind on Krishna? Can I just think of Krishna at my death and I just go to him, even though I haven't been doing all these like austere things? To me,
I'm
what makes sense to me is, like, to be able to get to that state of surrender, and that's why bhakti, because you're constantly practicing that so that if you
okay.
die at any moment, you can just boop, go there, and I feel like that's just what's most important. It almost comes back to your thing of, "You got 7 days to die, okay, now what?" It's
Right.
like it kinda feels like that, live your to me, it's like, "Okay, I lived my life all this time up until now, not even doing breath work, not even spending a
Yeah.
moment on my
Yeah.
spiritual hygiene, and
Right.
so just getting to this point and the fact that I can hit a space of surrender, I feel like that's what's most important. Is that, like, when you are preparing to die, that you can get into that state and, like, stay there.
Yeah. I think
And
so
so
too.
do should you do big grand rituals? I mean, I love doing rituals. They're fun and you can definitely feel I say they're fun. That was very like
Well,
that was very my character as like a white lady in America, honestly. Like
we do enjoy them though.
rituals are fun.
It's
They
tr
are though.
well,
And
it is in that we find them to be really different and blissful out of ordinary life, so in that way, they are fun.
yes,
I mean, we
they
do
are.
take them seriously, we definitely do.
Oh yes.
Um,
But are
I
they necessary to reach Krishna? Are they necessary to reach moksha?
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. When you think about the people who like maybe I don't know even if some of the sage like, do the sage who hits moksha and why? I guess that's another question. Like,
If
who goes
right.
to Krishna and how did they get there and why did they get there? I
If
feel
you
like there's
hit
a million different ways and reasons.
if you hit moksha, can you come back? Or
I
that's
think
it?
so.
Like, you're like, "Well, I'm coming back." Like, what's Sri Narada's state? We've talked about Narada a bunch and
Yeah.
how Narada is just floating around the universe and as a translated being. So what's he? And, like, that's confusing slightly to me because
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
Like, only he
um,
is that thing?
what right. He's only,
Only
like,
he is
saying
that
which
energy?
he's
Whatever.
ridiculously magical, and I love Narada.
Yes.
I don't understand how, like, how come he just gets to float around the universe or whatever. It's, like, magical, and I love it, and I'm not
Okay,
complaining.
well, is
But
Narada a certain type of thing that people can embody and they are a Narada Shannon or a Narada Shay or
is
if
is that a being or is that a thing that you can be? Can I sign up to
right,
be Narada, like, 7 billion years from now? Do I get to take a
right.
turn? Okay.
Seems kind of crazy that out of the bunches of energy that's in the world, there's only one
Ye
Narada.
well,
You know?
okay. Um,
What's
okay,
a
can
thought?
Narada come to Kali Yuga? That was my question. We kind of talked about that a little bit. What are the gods doing if they're not down here? So if they do incarnate, are they just living lives? But which, okay, we've said maybe they don't incarnate. What are they doing? Where are they at? Are they watching us? Is it like a fishbowl where they're just like sitting around with popcorn and just like watching us and just laughing at us
Well, you know
sometimes?
what comes to mind first for me when you ask that? I love just answering the questions with the first thing that pops up in my head.
Yeah.
The first thing that pops up in my head is like they're in a divine slumber. Haven't we heard that multiple times? Like
Mm, we have. We
they're
have.
slumbering. Like that's what they're
We
literally
have.
doing right now while we play in the background as a bunch of static.
Right. And Vishnu moves his leg and like 17 universes like and do it
Yeah.
again or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone
Okay.
rolls over,
So
you know?
what they're doing is things that are beyond our comprehension.
Yeah.
This is very different than what I have previously learned in life. I will say, like this whole idea of you can go to Jesus at the very last second and and say, you know, please accept me, Jesus, and you'll go to Jesus. That's not an unknown concept.
Oh, but what is Jesus doing?
Jesus is waiting on his peeps up in heaven. Basically,
Waiting at the Golden Gates or
he's
whatever?
waiting for Armageddon so that he can reincarnate. There's like a whole thing that's going to happen. That's very kind of close sounding to the Kali Yuga ending. Armageddon
Ah.
basically is the same thing. So pretty much what's happened where we are in Jesus's story is he came down here, he like incarnates, he like leaves a little wisdom or whatever. He goes back to heaven basically. Okay, we know all what happens with Jesus or whatever. And so the idea is that he's going to come back. And that's where like the 144,000 come up. There's something in the book of Revelations about this. There's all these signs that are actually written down in the book of Revelations that people follow. And after he comes back, he's going to wipe all of the evil from or actually, that's I take that back. He's gonna, like, take the good people up to heaven for 1,000 years, and then Satan's gonna be on earth, like, torturing everybody. You've
Oh.
heard of the rapture? Have you heard of the rapture before?
No.
Okay, well, this was way big back in, like, '80s when I was getting into some, like, evangelical Christian things. And essentially, this idea is that Jesus is going to usher in this, like, millennia of, you know, wondrous, wonderful, wonderful you know, truth and love and all that. But then pretty much she takes up the good people to heaven and Satan basically destroys everybody else on earth. And only select ones that are with Jesus really get to be saved. Everyone else dies. It's kind of, yeah, it's a little intense. It's a little intense. And it's been used by a bunch of different Christian groups and to kind of shape their belief systems around the last coming or the second coming. Sorry, we're in
Well,
the
it's
last
just a
days. You've heard that we're in the last days, right? You've heard that.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what that's referring to is like the time before the second coming of Christ is supposed to be just super difficult. So it's very much in line with the Kali Yuga.
Well, what's just crazy is, like, why is this question not even being asked more? Like, why haven't ever like, what is Jesus doing? Isn't there God above Jesus? Or no? Isn't he like the
Well,
son of
yeah,
God?
yes, depending on what you believe. Yes, either that's
So
God incarnating or God's actual son that incarnates. This whole idea of the Trinity is God, Jesus, Holy Ghost, but really all everything is God.
right. Okay.
So it's in the slight way of Brahma in the sense of
Sure.
like he incarnate and then he comes down and incarnates as Jesus
Right.
to do a certain, you know, save the world, basically, take on the sins of the world and die for everyone
Well, I feel
is
like
the idea.
I feel like the Srimad has told us that the gods are in a divine slumber.
So Jesus just up there chilling with everybody else, waiting for the Kali Yuga to end,
Yeah, he is. He's sleeping too.
pretty much. And then he's part of the whole plan of coming back and
Yep.
you know, likely is okay. Well, then that kind of does another question, a side question I had written down is how many gods are there in Hinduism?
Oh, wow.
How many gods?
I thought there was like 64,000. I thought that was
Yeah.
why does that come to mind? I feel like there's thousands.
And is there room for other religions' gods, such as Buddha and Jesus and Allah? Is
I
there room for
think.
that within Hinduism? It seems like it.
Yeah, I
It
think
seems like it.
so.
Yeah, I think so. I find that to be quite appealing, to be honest.
Yes.
Um, just because it feels very open and it seems like here we are, just a couple of random people who don't know what the F we're talking about when it comes to any of this. And we just decided to start a
No.
channel.
Yeah.
And people are talking to us and have been wonderful and patient and very kind to us. And honestly, have explained things to us over and over and have looked past our terrible pronunciations and have um I think seen the love that we have for Krishna kind of coming through what what we're doing here and what we're talking about. Hopefully, maybe that's why they're listening to us. I don't really know. But honestly, we haven't really had too much pushback and I just find that to be just amazing. And I find everything that I'm learning to be just mind blowing, to be honest.
Which, as we're preparing for this, I was thinking to myself, what if I had to come away with what is the biggest thing that I've learned from the Srimad Bhagavatam thus far? It's that devotional service matters.
Yeah.
That if you can have devotional service, like pure, loving devotional service, that's what matters. And that's why we haven't gotten pushback. That's why, I
Yeah,
mean, this
maybe.
is like, I feel like it's such forward pushing energy when you just come when you just act in this pure devotional state in your life, not only with this podcast, which we definitely do. This is one of the areas in my life where I feel I have the most devotional service because this is a gift that
Yeah.
I'm giving to Krishna. We're doing this for Krishna, for ourselves, that big circle. But in everything that you do, life changes when you come to situations in this loving devotional mood of service.
Yes. I agree. Maybe we just answered our question that we had earlier of do we have to do the rituals exactly right? Seems like no. Seems like we're coming to no, we don't. That it's
Right.
actually the devotion that's more important, the intent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's our next question. Can you convert to Hinduism? Is this something you convert to? Is there a conversion process? What do you think the answer to that is?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that at all because so many of the answers that we've been getting in our comments is like there's so many paths, there's so many different things. Like Hinduism isn't one thing. And so I feel like I don't know the answer to that. What do you think?
I think that you come to the knowledge basically is
Yeah.
more what it feels like. We don't see proselytizing from Hindus. We don't see them necessarily. I mean, a little bit with ISKCON, and we'll talk about ISKCON in a minute, but
Mhm.
I think the difference between what I've seen other religions do as far as trying to spread the faith to others, it feels like people come to this instead, the other direction.
Yeah.
Meaning like, whoa, I heard a thing. I heard that Swami. What'd that Swami say? Or I read a book, or like, then I'm
And
like,
you
that's interesting. And I go to it that way because I'm drawn toward it.
It's a
So
type of energy. I feel like it's like a different another level of energy. I was
yeah.
just listening to a podcast last night about this Christian man who he was like a pastor's son and he went and studied Catholicism, um all these things, and then he stepped away from that and he went to Eastern thought for a couple of years is what he said, and then he's studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Buddha's, text,
Hmm.
about Buddhism, about Jainism, all these different things, and then he comes back to his connection with Jesus and comes back to Christianity, and I feel like Hinduism just gives you, like, this whole other lens where, like, yeah, you can love Jesus and maybe that's your path, and, like, through Hinduism, it, like, makes it okay, to be able to choose these millions of different ways to do it, and I feel like that's the energy that it embodies. That's why it feels like an up-leveling. Doesn't feel like you have to choose one thing or, like, be I feel like it's just, like, another lens to see things through.
Yeah. I mean, to someone's point one time, and I don't remember when this was said, but Krishna is a Hindu god.
Yeah.
Like we're reading about Hindu gods. So I want to acknowledge that when we say that Hinduism doesn't seem like necessarily something I can convert to, and suddenly I'm like, well, I'm a Hindu now,
Right.
because I'm thinking that there's certain temples that this lady is not getting into when I show up in India. Like I'm not getting in there. Even I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I converted, I'm Hindu. Actually, no. But I am like worshiping and having devotion to a Hindu god. So
Yeah.
part of what we're learning is, what does that even mean? What is that? What's up
Right.
with that? You know what I mean?
It's an
Again,
ancient knowledge.
what does that even mean for me as a person, as a soul, as a,
When I was thinking this earlier as well. This is so much of this has felt like a remembrance and not a learning of something new. And this is an ancient knowledge that's coming
yeah,
to us that is beyond Hinduism.
yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
Even Krishna himself is beyond Hinduism.
Yeah, very much so. Um, Again, then it starts to feel a little overwhelming when I think of it that way too.
Yeah, for sure.
We've heard so many different stories of Krishna, so many different sages asking questions, answering questions. Just Queen Kunti's prayer.
Yeah.
Just that rings in my head sometimes when all of the things that Kunti has gone through, and there's Krishna leaving Hastinapur, and we've talked about the women up on the roof, just like gossiping and looking at him, and Kunti just approaching him and just saying to him, I would do this again and again and again, just to be able to be in your presence. And that's, I guess, the thing that I end up coming back to every time. Like, I don't know what this is called that I'm feeling. Like, I don't know what that is necessarily. I'm calling it Krishna. Krishna's the one showing up, but wow, it's like it feels like bliss. And when Kunti talks,
Cosmic.
yes, when Kunti talks about that, I would do this again and again. It's like, yes, girl, you have.
Yeah.
And me
Mhm.
too. Like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I'm here for it. So I think we convert sort of in a way in our hearts and
Yes.
our lives, because another thing that I have come to just slightly understand, but get this, we've talked about already, karma, and just that my life does mean something every second, every moment, every thought.
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
heard this before. And, we even started talking out about how, wait a second, this is the original law of attraction here Christian is talking about. He's talking about
Right.
manifesting stuff. Wait,
Yeah.
what? Just,
That's where it feels like this is an energy field that we
yeah,
have joined, you
yeah,
know? And it's a collective consciousness. Hinduism is like a collective consciousness. It's a
yeah,
conglomerate of all of this.
yeah. Ugh, super interesting. Super interesting.
And it's like every time I feel overwhelmed about it, I
Yeah.
come back to like, oh, I'll never really understand this in my human form. You know,
Oh,
as Shay this time, I'm never really gonna get it. I can understand more and I can learn more and I can gain more knowledge about it, but this
yeah,
point, it's like, well, devotional service, pure loving devotional service and love unto Godhead. You
yeah.
know, onto that cosmic energy that I'm feeling so present in my life.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about ISKCON now and the different translations, because we've had several questions about every now and then, are we ISKCON? No, we're not. That's the answer to that one. No, we are not. We did visit a ISKCON temple, and I found the devotees to be quite wonderful and just very
Yes.
open and loving. Um, I feel like my journey with this is almost like bigger than that for the moment, in the
Yeah.
sense of like, I'm not ready to like dial down into one guru's mindset or thinking
Yeah.
about all this. Because
Yeah.
one of the things that we have noticed is there's various feelings about ISKCON
Mhm.
within Hinduism. Um, the Indian people, basically, what do they think about ISKCON is very much, it seems like one way or the other.
Yeah.
If that's what it seems like we're finding, people that are like 100% for ISKCON, people 100%
You
against.
know, and there's a lot of people in the middle though. A lot of people saying doesn't matter.
Yes,
Doesn't matter
yes.
either way.
And
Can be a
I've
part of ISKCON, you cannot be a part of ISKCON.
yeah, and I'm finding myself there. That's where I'm finding myself in the middle.
Yeah.
Is I have nothing against it. I notice the different translations, and this is not anything new. I've said before, there's many translations of the Bible.
Yeah.
You have different people having different ideas, but generally it's the same thing. And I guess that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Even my different version of the Bhagavad Gita that I've been reading, the Franklin Edgerton version, which is so different sounding,
Yeah, it
so
is.
different sounding, but it's saying the exact same thing.
Mhm.
So I kind of do feel like the different versions of the Gita, the different versions of things that we're reading, people get real picky about semantics and certain words. And, this particular word means this. We're not to that level. We're not that nuanced yet. I promise you, we are not
No.
noticing. We are not
No.
noticing. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like 20 years in of studying the Bible, I might be able to break down the different versions and how it's different between
Sure.
the King James version and the New Standard version. And I don't like that word they use here. And I get it. But no, I'm not at that level at
No.
all. I'm at the kindergarten level still.
Yeah.
It's like those kids' books that I bought for my grandkids, where it's like the gods and goddesses, and there's like 4 words on each page.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still at that. So
Yeah.
I do feel like eventually probably will end up with a preference for a certain version that we like to
Sure.
read, but I think that whatever version we end up is what Krishna gave us, and that's the one we're supposed to read, and that's the one we've got, and that's what we're doing.
And I've said this plenty of times, but I really just feel like I'm absorbing the energy. It doesn't really
Yeah,
matter to me much who translated it. It does
yeah,
embody a certain energy. And this first go around is like building the foundation. That's how I feel like I have some structures built and like the concrete's being poured.
yeah,
And then you get to build and pick and what windows am I gonna choose and all of those things are to
for
come. But
sure.
right now, the foundation is just being built and all I wanna do is just, like, drink the nectar.
That's pretty much what I've been doing too. I've been watching a lot of Swami Sarvapriyananda,
Mhm.
and some of his talks are just way beyond and above what I can really even get.
Yeah. Mhm.
Some of it's really understandable. He's so easy to listen to. Sometimes I will be like, "What?" You know what I mean,
Uh-huh.
though? Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I got a question of just like, "Hey, where do I go when I'm dreaming?" Or whatever. I wanna ask him that, and if you watch, he talks at the Vedanta Society, which we are going to see him.
Yes.
And people have badass questions that they'll ask him. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can ask him a single question.
Right.
Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm like, where do I go when I'm dreaming or whatever? It seems so stupid. Like,
Like,
uh,
"Is my boyfriend gonna break up with me?"
seriously, this is like I've been raving and raving about the questions of the sages.
Yeah.
And
So good.
let's actually talk about that a little bit. This is where it begins. Pariksit finds out he's gonna die. He's got 7 days. And what's he do? He heads down to the river. And
Yeah.
I just think about this whole idea of that. And what am I supposed to get from that? What am I supposed to learn from that? This epic meeting where we're just like all this wisdom from the universe is just being spilled out. Uh, it feels like it's lifetimes worth of information. Right? It feels like it. Even though I'm reading, we're reading all this, it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
like I'm on my 74th lifetime trying to still get this, maybe. I don't know. It feels
Mhm.
like that, though. There's so much. So, even to answer the question, what would you do if you had 7 days left? Yeah, I think you might do some version of like giving your stuff away and like sitting by the river and being like, okay,
Yeah.
everyone, ask any question. Find me a sage, and let's get
Yeah.
some questions answered right now.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Mhm. I'm gonna fast, I'm gonna get my body right, I'm gonna drink up the beautiful energy of the river flowing in front of me that's gonna help to take me away.
Right. And I'm going to listen to epic question after epic question after epic question.
And hear the pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. Tell me,
Yeah. This is where I'm like, I know that I'm not even slightly close because my questions are not that good yet.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Because
Yeah.
it's like, wow,
We
so
have
many
time.
good questions.
So many.
I um okay, so I think we answered everything that I called out. How has this changed us so far? I guess is a good place to kind of wrap this conversation up. How has this changed
Well,
you?
I have kind of spoken to this already about this whole idea of bringing like pure loving devotion into my everyday life, and I think
Yeah,
that's what has changed for me the most is
yeah,
um and let's I still get caught up in the human energy for sure, for 100%, but it's so much easier for me to dial back and to tap into like the unconditional love that is there and for me to embody that and then react in such a way that is in alignment with that. I think that's what has changed for me the most is just and also the transcendentalism of it
yeah,
and just realizing that everything around me really is God and how can I treat all my objects,
yeah,
all the elements, any person, any place with how I would want to be treated and also in a way that is remembering and seeing their God, seeing that they are God. That were made up of the same things. I think that's what how this has changed me the most. And these are all things that I've known. It's almost what you said, but it's at a whole different level now.
yeah.
And it feels like it's been years in the making coming to this point of being able to do that. So, I think that's what has changed for me the most in my life, and I think that's huge, and I'm still
Yeah.
trying to integrate that, and that's where it's like, I have to give myself grace in my human tendencies because this is all new to me, and sure, I can get caught up in the anger or in the spite or pity, whatever, um, but yeah, just coming back to Krishna and feeling his energy and then, allowing that to ground me and then moving through my life in a way that's in alignment with that is the biggest.
Very nice, very nice. Mine is mine's pretty similar. It's like I've gotten perspective like no other, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. It's like perspective, just divine perspective. Just wait a
Mhm.
second. I already said it. Like every moment of my life means something. Like I don't want to waste one single second
Mhm.
doing anything that is wasting those precious moments. If this truly is like a probation that I'm in, like a test, like a lifetime where I'm supposed to learn something, let me learn it, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
And I feel like part of what this is unlocking in my soul is um just this idea that there's so much more. It's like I don't even know what I don't know.
mhm.
And it's just it's giving me this like more of an eternal view. I don't know how else to say
Yeah.
it, where the world just seems like just extra magical. I can't explain
Mhm,
it. And I just feel like it's almost like this feedback loop. I had this thought the other morning where actually I'm just talking to Krishna. Every last one of you is Krishna. And
mhm,
it's like you're all just a feedback loop to me. So every comment that you put on a video, every word said back to me when I meet humans in person, every single thing is just feedback coming from Krishna back to me. How am I doing? Like, how's it going?
mhm,
You know what I
mhm,
mean? So, just that idea that we're on this magical plane, we're in this multiverse, or in this cycle of, there's just one body I'm in, is one character, just this avatar that I'm playing. It makes it just feel different. I just feel different. I don't know how else to explain it except for that. I just know that I'm deep in my game right now.
Yeah,
Sometimes you'll hear me talk about, well, we're just in our backstory.
yeah.
And I've had multiple backstories. Like I'm
Mhm,
waiting for the main event of my life to happen. And sometimes we will get to that where it's like, oh, I'm just waiting for something to change, waiting for something to happen. But part of what this has helped me realize is like, nope, I gotta make it. I gotta make it happen. It's like, there's a lot of changes that have been happening to us and in our personal lives, and like more to come on that front.
Uh-huh.
But I had this again, this other thought about I don't know how to put it. Almost like I almost like because I'm coming into this body to learn, to grow, to expand as a soul. And I want to know everything crazy and awesome and weird and cool and disturbing and like incredible and like unbelievable and magical. I want to know all of that. And I guess my thought is I'm an eternal being, so I have a long time to get to that. And I'm
Yeah.
just here to enjoy this now.
Mm.
So Ram Dass said, be here now.
Be here now. And you
Be
know
here
something?
now.
As you're talking, I have 2 words that are just coming up again, and it's this is another way that this has changed my life is just surrendering and
Mm,
trusting the divine path.
yes.
And just
There you go.
it almost always comes back to that. And isn't that
Yeah.
a place that we've been getting to is just being able to just open up and like, "What?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do that? I'm gonna do that instead of this? Okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna surrender and I'm gonna trust that this is what is supposed to happen because
Yes.
I'm being divinely guided and I trust this divine path that I'm on and I surrender to it, in fact."
You're articulating this so much better than I am. I'm struggling to put words around it, but that's it. It's
Mhm.
finding the divine path and just it feels right. It
Yeah.
feels good. It feels like exactly where I'm supposed to be. So,
And like I
uh,
said in the beginning, I feel like I'm just getting comfortable.
yeah.
It's like you find the path, okay, and you're like weed whacking through it, and you got a new pair of shoes on that's giving you blisters. And now I feel like I'm treading along and my shoes don't hurt anymore. And I'm really seeing things clearly for like the first time. Like
Yeah.
right now. Like now. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Right. This life is ours to have, to make.
Yes.
You have to do it. I was
Yes.
praying to Krishna about, can I have something? And he's basically like, no, go get it.
Mhm.
Oh, damn, yeah, okay. Like, okay, it's gonna be so much more satisfying if you do it that way. If you actually just take charge of your life and just know that you can manifest your reality in the sense of the story you tell yourself about who you are is everything. So that's
Everything.
that's part of what we're learning is the story of who are we.
Yeah.
It's just wow, we're just a divine being. We're just a
It's
fractal of
liberating.
Krishna. What?
Liberating.
It's totally liberating. It's mind-blowing. It's giving me perspective and peace and bliss like nothing else, like never
Mhm.
before. So,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
it's
I love this. I love that we get to document this, and I love that we get to share this with other people and just see this raw version of ourselves, of us kind of really just floating out in space on this rock. And
yeah.
here's our divine path. Here's what's been going down for us. How about you?
Yeah. How about you?
Yep.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, this has been a really nice chat, and I feel like I'm ready next week to get cracking back at the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, yes.
And if you're still with us, thank you so much for being here for this conversation, for all of your input, because as we've said a bunch of times, your comments are helping us understand who we are, what are we doing, what are we learning in such a huge way.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, another thing that I've learned is the people who follow this belief system are amazing.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for them, honestly.
Amen. We're one. We're all
Yeah.
one.
Beautiful, beautiful community. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna. Let's if you have any more questions for them, please drop them in the comments. I love doing videos like this because I think it just gives uh, first off, it's introspective for me.
yeah,
And again, for the people who are watching, it gives you kind of an insight of what's going on in my brain and in my life and my processing of all of this, which I think can be really helpful in knowing who we are and why we're doing this. So, any
yeah.
more questions that you have, feel free to drop them. I love answering them.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll keep going, and we are excited to see what else we have to learn. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing and sharing and all that. So
Until next time,
until next time, we'll see
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.